When five notorious bikers confronted a lone boy at a roadside cafe, they thought they'd found an easy target. Instead, they encountered a former army ranger who would not only transform their lives, but change the dynamics of their entire town. What happened that evening would be viewed millions of times online, spark a movement of unity, and show that the toughest battles often happen in the places we least expect. Elijah Carter adjusted his hoodie as he sipped a soda in his usual booth near the window of Mayfield Cafe. The quiet chatter of the diners around him was soothing, a break from the noise of the world outside. At 16, he didn't look like much to most people. His wiry frame and unassuming demeanor didn't betray the years of relentless training he'd endured as part of the youth division of the Army Cadets program. The small silver pin on his jacket was the only visible token of his achievements. "Here you go, Elijah," said Miss Hattie, the elderly owner of the cafe, setting a plate of fries on the table. She'd known Elijah since he was a kid, and she admired his quiet dedication to helping the local community center. "How's that training program of yours coming along?" "Pretty good," Elijah replied with a small smile. "Got 2 new kids interested in joining. It's nice seeing them find something to focus on." "You're doing good work, honey. I don't know where this town would be without you keeping those kids on the right path." The bell above the door jingled, and the atmosphere in the cafe shifted. 5 men strode in, their leather jackets covered in patches that marked them as members of the Red Vultures, a notorious motorcycle gang. Their leader, a burly man with a jagged scar across his cheek, surveyed the room with a sneer. Well, look at this quaint little place," the leader said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Looks like we've found ourselves a friendly hangout, boys." Elijah's eyes flicked to the reflection in the window. He took in the scene with practiced calm. The leader was easily over 6 feet tall, built like a linebacker. His second, a wiry man with a skull tattoo on his neck, kept his hand close to his jacket pocket. The other 3 fanned out, their heavy boots thudding against the wooden floor. "Hey, sweetheart," one of the bikers said, smirking at a waitress as he deliberately knocked a glass off her tray. "Looks like you've got a mess to clean up." The waitress, barely out of high school, bent down to pick up the shards, her hands trembling. A mother sitting nearby with her 2 young kids began gathering her things, trying to leave quietly. "Oh, where do you think you're going?" the leader said, stepping toward her. "Maybe you need some company, lady. We're real good with kids." "Leave her alone," Elijah said, his voice calm but firm. The cafe fell silent. The leader turned slowly, his eyes narrowing as he looked at the boy sitting in the corner booth. "What's this? The kid wants to play hero?" he said, walking toward Elijah. "You got a problem, boy?" "Actually, I learned a thing or two about problems," Elijah replied, standing up. "One of them is knowing when to back off." The leader laughed, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "You expect us to take you seriously?" "You don't have to take me seriously," Elijah said. "But you do need to let these people leave. Now." The biker with the skull tattoo lunged forward, reaching for Elijah's arm. The move was sloppy, telegraphed. Elijah stepped aside smoothly, redirecting the man's momentum and sending him sprawling into a table. Dishes clattered to the floor as the cafe erupted into gasps. The leader roared and swung a meaty fist at Elijah, brass knuckles gleaming. Elijah ducked and swept his legs out from under him. The big man hit the floor with a thunderous crash. "You're going to regret this," the leader snarled, blood trickling from his split lip. "Probably not," Elijah replied, his stance relaxed but ready. The other 3 bikers moved in, circling him. Elijah's training kicked in. The first came at him with a wild punch, which Elijah sidestepped before delivering a precise jab to the ribs. The second tried to grab him from behind, but Elijah twisted free and delivered a sharp elbow to his stomach. The third hesitated, glancing at his fallen comrades before backing away toward the door. "Smart choice," Elijah said, turning back to the leader. "Now, are you going to keep this up, or are you ready to leave?" The leader struggled to his feet, his bravado gone. "You're going to pay for this, kid. Nobody messes with the Red Vultures." "Nobody messes with people I'm protecting," Elijah shot back. The sound of approaching sirens filled the air, and the bikers exchanged uneasy glances. "We'll be back," the leader muttered, stumbling toward the door. "Not if you know what's good for you," Miss Hattie said, emerging from the kitchen with a rolling pin in hand. The bikers limped out as the first patrol car pulled into the lot. Elijah turned to the mother and her kids, who were now huddled in a corner. "It's okay," he said softly. "They won't bother you again." By the time the police had taken statements and cleared the scene, Elijah was back in his booth, quietly finishing his soda. Miss Hattie sat across from him, her face a mix of worry and pride. "You didn't have to do that, you know." "Somebody had to," Elijah replied simply. What neither of them knew was that a diner patron had recorded the entire confrontation and uploaded it online. By the next morning, the video had gone viral, garnering hundreds of thousands of views. Headlines proclaimed Elijah as a local hero, and his quiet life was about to be anything but. The video brought more than just attention. Veterans groups, community leaders, and even local motorcycle clubs reached out, inspired by Elijah's bravery. Within days, the community center where Elijah volunteered was overwhelmed with offers of support. Local bikers who had once been rivals began showing up, asking how they could help. "I didn't sign up to be famous," Elijah said to Miss Hattie one afternoon as the cafe buzzed with reporters and curious onlookers. "It's not about fame, honey," she replied. "It's about showing people what's possible when you stand up for what's right." The red vultures hadn't been seen since the incident, but Elijah knew it wasn't over. Sure enough, a week later, the leader, now wearing a sling, showed up at the community center. "We need to talk," he said, his voice subdued. Elijah nodded, leading him to a quiet room. Over the next hour, the man, whose name was Travis, shared his story. He'd served in the army years ago, but struggled to adjust to civilian life. The gang had given him a sense of belonging, but now he was questioning everything. "I don't want this life for my son," Travis admitted, pulling out a crumpled photo of a boy about Elijah's age. "Then let's change it," Elijah said. With Elijah's help, Travis and several other gang members began volunteering at the community center. They started with small tasks, but quickly took on bigger roles, mentoring at-risk youth and repairing bikes for local families. Word spread, and soon other motorcycle clubs joined in, turning the community center into a hub of transformation. Over the next few months, the town saw a remarkable shift. The Red Vultures disbanded, replaced by a new group focused on service and mentorship. Elijah worked tirelessly, organizing programs that brought people together, from bike repair workshops to neighborhood cleanups. The video of the cafe incident became a symbol of what could happen when one person took a stand. By the end of the year, the community had transformed. The cafe, once a quiet spot on the edge of town, became a gathering place for people from all walks of life. Elijah, still just a teenager, had become a leader and a symbol of hope for his town. And as he looked out at the bustling cafe one evening, he realized that the fight that had started with a single stand was only the beginning of something much bigger.